welcome to episode 26 of Knitting Needles and Stems. I'm Carrie, I'm the host, and today is Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Today's segments will include works in progress, finished objects, knit-alongs, more out than in, my patterns, resolutions, and how it works. I'd like to welcome all my new viewers. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. And welcome back to all my returning viewers. Thanks very much for coming back and watching again. You can find me as Knitting Needles and Stems on Ravelry, Facebook, and Patreon. My Ravelry username is Kabammer. It's a new year. 2026. Happy 2026. We're going to talk a little bit later about accomplishments from 2025 and the things I hope to achieve in 2026. One of those things is getting to 100 subscribers. I'm still waiting to get to 100 subscribers, and then we will do a yarn giveaway. I'll find some good yarn that I think everybody would enjoy, and we'll have a Google form you can fill out to be included in that drawing. So look forward to that. Let's just jump right in to works in progress. I'm back to using my project calendar since the Indie Gift Along finished on December 31st, and I'm done getting my Upadu done. I'm back to using my calendar, so I have worked on just about every project that I have on the needles. So first, let's start with the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan Soldat. For this one, I'm using, it's a big, I got a big cone of this yarn that is lighter than lace weight. I'm thinking it would be considered a cobweb weight. I'm not really sure. I've only ever had this as this weight yarn, so it's this nice brown color that has little blips of greens and reds in it. And I'm also using beads from Fire Mountain Gems. My little beads here. And this is what I've got so far. You can see it's really transparent. I'm not sure what the fiber content is of this yarn. I'm not sure that you can even see the pattern because it's so see-through, and I don't know if you can see the snow outside today, but it is really snowing today. But this is a long-term project, and I'm just going to keep going until I've used all of my beads. I have a lot left. I'm keeping them in this bag so that they don't get lost. But this is moss green. The moss green color of these beads from Fire Mountain Beads. So again, this is the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan Soldat using my mystery cone yarn and Fire Mountain beads from Fire Mountain Beads. All right, to the next thing that I worked on. I'm literally pulling things out of the woodwork here, is my Corner to Corner blanket by Sammy Bristow. And if you remember from earlier episodes, for this one, I'm just using random leftovers from all different projects, all different weights. I think going forward, it will just be anything heavier than a fingering weight that I will use. But there is some fingering weight actually in this blanket. And it's just a corner to corner blanket. So I started at that corner there. And I'm working my way, and I just work until I run out of the yarn. For most of the yarns, I used either a Russian join or a braided join. So that way I don't have yarn that I'm going to have to weave, ends that I'm going to have, a bunch of ends I'm going to have to weave in. For some, I couldn't do that, so there will be ends, but for most of them, I won't. And it's just going to be a throw size blanket. This is a great way to work, to use up leftovers. I had one of my knitting friends ask me if I was switching needles to keep my gauge. No, I'm not doing that. I'm hoping that with washing and blocking, it'll even out a little bit, but it's just going to be a comfy throw to put on you. So if it's not exactly square, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And I'm going to keep it for myself. Unless one of you crazy viewers want a crazy blanket that won't necessarily be uniform. You never know. So that's the Corner to Corner blanket by Sammy Bristow. It's not written as a scrappy or leftover pattern, but that's just the way that I am working it. The next thing that I'm working on is the Ultimate Lounging Shorts by the Cumbrian Knitter. Now these, I actually started at the retreat, the Yarniacs retreat in 2025. And then I realized that they were going to be way too small for my legs. So you start by working the legs and then you join to work the body of the shorts. So I have started them over. It has bubble stitches. The actual pattern has bubble stitches, which I don't have any need for bubble stitches on a pair of shorts that I'm going to be using as pajamas. So I just worked in the 1x1 rib until I got to as much rib as I wanted, and now I'm just going to do stockinette until it's the measurement that I want until I start the second one. So I'm using, for this I'm using Haiku Kobasi DK, which is Cotton Bamboo Silk Blend, DK weight, and the color is Indigo. Again, these are the Ultimate Lounging Shorts by the Cumbrian Knitter using Haiku Kobasi DK in Indigo. Not really much to show on those. It's just the beginning of a leg. So the next thing that I worked on was my Broken Jack by General Hog Buffer. For these, this is a pair of socks, and for these I'm using Biscotti Yarned Bis Sock in the colorway 190708, and it is red, white, and blue. These are going to be my 4th of July socks because I'm on a mission to have socks for every holiday. And let me get them out of my nice little needle holder here. Yeah, I've completed the leg on both socks, and you can see that they are similar. They are not identical because of the self-striping nature of the yarn. I think I've decided it calls for a short row heel, and I think I'm going to go ahead and go with my tried and true Fish Lips Kiss heel that I love, and I like the way it fits. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing with these, but that will be the only different thing. And you work these short rows, these triangles in short rows. So you would do this mountain, I'll call it a mountain, and then you would do the mountain on the other side, and then you do the valley to fill in on both sides, and then you just repeat it again for the whole body or leg. This is the leg, and then the foot, it will be the same thing again, but to get to the length that you need, I guess you would do these until it's close to the length that you need, and then you would just work in the round at the end until you get to the length that you need before starting your toe. So again, this is Broken Jack by General Hog Buffer using Biscotti Yarns Bis Sock in colorway 190708. I have sometimes they also have a name. I guess the name is Go Habs Go. I don't know if I can get that to focus on that. But yeah, so, and I'm keeping my needles, my double points, in this nice little bag that Catherine made for us at the Yarniacs Knitting Retreat with the Yarniacs podcast fabric. How cool is that? But I just put them in there, snap the buttons closed, and I don't have to worry about any of my stitches falling off of my double point needles. Okay, the next thing that I've been working on is the reason that I'm not going to use anything fingering weight in my corner to corner blanket is my Coziest Memory, The Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray. And for this one, I am using my leftover sock yarns and or other fingering weight yarns that I have that aren't necessarily sock. So I took this to my knit group on Friday last week when I was off work. I only get to go on the Fridays when I'm off work. And I was working on it, and someone asked how I decide which color to use next. For now, I'm using whatever I have. I have a lot of fingering leftovers, but my plan is when I finish a project with fingering weight yarn, that will be the next square on this. Otherwise, I'll just use whatever color I think will look good next that I already have in my leftovers. Again, that's the Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray. And this is also a long-term project. I plan to do one square a week at least. I could do more, but for now it's just going to be one square a week, and it's going to take a long time to get enough to hopefully cover my queen size bed. The next thing that I'm working on, I actually cast on during the Yarniacs Zoom last week, or started, because I was working on a snowflake. And last year I made my snowflakes in all different colors. But this year I decided that I wanted to have white snowflakes. So with all the different colors of the thread, the crochet thread that I got from my friend's aunt when she passed away, I decided I'm going to make these little scrubbies. And it's just a simple crocheted circle. I start with a magic ring, and I do 6 single crochet in a magic ring, and then I increase 6 stitches on each round until I'm getting up to 60 stitches, and then I'm casting off. And I'm holding 3 colors of the threads at once. I'm using a G or 4mm hook, and just changing to a new color whenever I run out of one of the colors. So I have 2 done. You can see that the outside of this one is the same as the inside of this one, and then I have 1 started, and I'm just going to keep doing these while I'm on the Zoom with the Yarniacs, because I don't really have to think about what I'm doing. I can just chat and listen, and yeah, so that's what I'm doing. These are just little crochet scrubbies, no pattern, just using up my colorful crochet thread that I got from my friend's aunt. Okay, the next thing that I'm working on is the 7-inch bear in the round by Catherine Fisher and Julie Home. This is my bear for the Bears for Kids group that I'm in. The theme this year is this month is winter bears, and I figure these are nice wintry colors. I'm using this is Knit Picks, well, the Andes that I bought. I talked about it earlier, or last year when I bought it, when I was hosting in October. And then this sparkly yarn that I'm using for the fur of the bear is actually a sweater that I took apart a long time ago. So this one has raglan shaped arms. Look at that little shaped arm. And then I'm on the first leg. I'll have a little foot, and then the next leg, and then the arms. So I'll go back and get those. So again, this is the 7-inch bear in the round by Catherine Fisher and Julie Holm. And if you hear a bunch of noise in the background, my kids are deciding to make coffee and come and whisper to each other while I'm recording my podcast. You won't be hearing those sounds once I get my craft room set up, whenever that might be. Sorry. Okay, the next thing, I told you there's a lot. I've been working on a lot of projects. The next thing that I'm working on is a muscle burra, another muscle burra by Isolde Teague. For this one, I was going to pick up Regan from youth group, and I needed a project because I didn't have any plain knitting projects to work on. So I cast on another muscle burra. I've been wanting to make one using the Knit Picks Felici in the olive juice colorway that I made all of the socks for me. I don't know how this ended up like this, but that I made the socks for me and the kids and my husband in last year for Christmas, 2024 for Christmas. So I've cast on, I'm still working on my increases. I haven't measured my gauge yet to find out when I need to stop the increases, but I will do that once I have a little bit more area to work with. The muscle burra, in case you forgot, is a double layer hat. So you start at 1 crown, you increase to the size that you need, and then you knit and knit and knit and knit and knit, depending on, and before decreasing for the other end. So basically it's a tube or like an oval shape that's closed on both ends. And depending on how you want it to be able to be worn, you can make it so that you shove one side inside the other. You can make it so that the sides can be folded up to have 4 layers of fabric on your ears, or you can make it so that it's just a double layer no matter which side you wear it on. So I'm not sure yet how I'm going to have it, but for now, this is what I've got. Again, that's the Muscle Burra by Isolde Teague, using Knit Picks Felici in the olive juice colorway. The next thing that I'm working on, I can't show to you because my husband's birthday is on January 18th, and it is actually a gift for him, and I know that he does watch my podcast. Hi, honey, just so that I can get some more views. So I'm not going to show that to you until after his birthday. So the last thing that I'm working on is my counted cross stitch, and it's in a plastic bag, so please don't hate me for all the sound, but this is Let's Be Magical by Ursula Michael. And I am really almost done with this. I've been working on my cross stitch on Tuesdays. It's this fun globe with the castle at the bottom and some nice witch shoes, and it has all of these Halloween-y spooky sayings and the cute little owl with the broom and the moon, and I'm really almost done. I'm really excited about this one getting done. Again, this is Let's Be Magical by Ursula Michael, counted cross stitch. Now, let's move on to finished objects. The first thing that I finished is my Clean 2026 by Silky R. For this one, I used Knit Picks Dishy and Mulberry and Verdigris. So this is my washcloth 2026. What a great way to start the year. This is made with mosaic knitting, so you're only ever using one color of yarn at a time, and you just slip stitches to make the design on it. And I love mosaic washcloths that are made with cotton because they have that extra texture on them, and it really helps to get your dishes clean. And I love using handmade washcloths because I feel like they clean my dishes better than regular washcloths. Again, this is Clean 2026 by Silky R, using Knit Picks Dishy in Mulberry and Verdigris. The next thing that I finished is Frizzy Daisy Snowflake by Crochet Frog Blog. For my snowflakes this year, I'm using Aunt Lydia's White Pearl, and this is the metallic. So I don't know if you can see the sparkles in there, but there are light sparkles in there. It still needs to be stiffened along with some of my other ones from last year. I make these snowflakes to send in Christmas cards at Christmas time or to just hand out as I see fit. And this is the first one of 2026. Again, this is Frizzy Daisy Snowflake by Crochet Frog Blog, using Aunt Lydia's White Pearl. The next thing I finished is the Parsley Dress by Claire Slade. This was the last project that I finished for the Indie Gift Along 2026 or 2025. And I'm calling it finished, even though I don't have the buttons for it yet. But it is this cute little dress. Look how cute that is. It's going to be for my coworker's new grandbaby who is due in March. So I made the 6 to 12 month size because March, no babies in northern Wisconsin will be wearing a sleeveless dress in March. Of course, she could always put this on her with some tights and a long sleeve onesie under it, but on a newborn baby, it would be pretty gigantic. But also on that size, she'll be able to wear it for a while. When she grows out of it as a dress, she could actually wear it as a shirt. So I think that it'll get a lot of use, or it will. I've never given a knitted gift to this person, so I don't know that it'll get used a lot, but I hope that it will get used a lot. Again, that's the Parsley Dress by Claire Slade. Oh, and for this one, I used Brown Sheep Company Cotton Fleece in the Primrose colorway. All right, and the last thing that I finished is my One Love Mystery Shawl by Joji Locatelli. For this one, I used Happy Habit hand-dyed yarn by Laura in the Bourbon Color Scale variegated colorway. And this was Joji Locatelli's mystery knit along that was running in the fall of 2025. I didn't finish mine in the fall of 2025 because I decided to stop doing everything and work on my Opadu. So, but I really like this yarn. I really like the shawl. I like the shape. I like the depth. I would like to sew the ends in, but I haven't done that yet. But I mean, I'll probably wear it as a scarf. I mean, actually wear it on Monday as a scarf because it's been blocking. I just took it off of the pen, out of the pens I released it from the pens to record my podcast. So everything about this is so squishy. It's in garter stitch with these nice lace accents here, and I showed you the wrong side. It's in garter stitch with the nice lace accents, which the garter stitch makes everything just so squishy, and it's kind of light and airy, but it's not light and airy, and it's just a great shawl. That, I mean, it actually looks good in the variegated yarn, which is what Joji said. So this is the One Love Mystery Shawl by Joji Locatelli, using Happy Habit hand-dyed yarn by Laura in the Bourbon Color Scale variegated. And of course, I love bourbon, so I had to have this yarn when I was down in Kentucky last year. All right, let's move on to knit-alongs. The first knit-along that I am participating in is in the Project a Month Cal group For the month of January, we are doing the Fish Hat, Dead or Alive by Thelma Egberts. I'm also participating in the Downseller Studio podcast, Pigskin Party. This one runs from September 4th to 2025 to February 9th, 2026. And you get to make whatever you want for this. She has different challenges and different things that get you extra points. If you use sponsored designers or sponsored yarn or sponsored bags, you get extra points. But for the most part, you can do whatever you want to do to get your points. So it's a really fun knit along. I don't participate in the threads as much as I would like to because I'd rather be knitting, or I'm at work. When I'm not at work, I'd rather be knitting. So again, that's the Pigskin Party at the Downseller Studio podcast Ravelry group. The last knit along that I'm participating in, or I plan to participate in, is the Self-Indulgent Knit Along, and that is in the Yarniacs podcast group. That runs from December 21st, which is the winter solstice in the United States, to March 20th, 2026, which is the spring solstice, or the spring equinox here in the United States. And this one is anything self-indulgent. So if it's a pattern you've been wanting to make, if it's a yarn you've been wanting to use, if it's an item you've been wanting to make, anything that you can come up with any reason that is self-indulgent for you. It can be a gift for somebody else. It can be for yourself. Anything that makes it self-indulgent. So that's the Yarniacs podcast Ravelry group, Self-Indulgent Knit Along. Now let's move on to more out than in. So it's time for my final More Out Than In for 2025. That includes getting my yarn advent that you saw in the last episode, and includes everything else for the entire year. So for December, I brought in 3,851 yards between the advent and the swap that I participated in. But I sent out 2,429 yards. So I was just barely down for December. So my year-to-date totals actually saved me from the rest of the year. For year-to-date, I sent out I brought in 13,134 yards and sent out 18,145 yards. So I'm down 5,011 yards for 2025. It's the first year that I've ended with a decline in my stash instead of an increase in my stash. So I'm really excited about that. And right now, I have no plans to order yarn, except my daughter is getting married in August. And I told her I would make her a blanket, and she has picked out her blanket. And I've ordered the yarn for that. So I do have that yarn coming. But other than that, I don't have any plans to buy any more yarn. Okay, now let's talk about my patterns. I sell patterns on Ravelry as Carried from Fleece. And I'm still working on my mystery critter for 2026. This is a mystery spring knit along that I release on April 5th. No, I release it on April 1st. The clues come out every week for 6 weeks. You'll get a clue that will make a cute little critter. And that all starts on April 15th as a celebration for the end of tax season, which I am a senior tax analyst, and our busy season has already started. So I'm lucky to have today, Saturday, off. This is my last Saturday off for the next 14 weeks. So I decided to take advantage and record a podcast. All right, let's move on to my resolutions. Now, I'm not one to really make resolutions, but in 2025, I finished 79 projects, 1 baby item, 1 vest, 2 sweaters, 14 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of fingerless mitts, 1 pair of gloves, 1 pair of mittens, 9 washcloths, 2 cozies, 13 snowflakes, 1 coaster, 8 bears, 12 gnomes, and 4 other types of stuffies. My goal for 2025 is goal number 1. I make goals, not resolutions. My goal number 1 is to work from stash as much as possible. This includes working on projects for my queue as they are already mashed up with the yarn to make them with. Goal number 2 is to finish the following works in progress carried over from 2025. Clean 2026, that's done. One Love mystery shawl, that's done. Sea of Flames poncho, hasn't been worked on yet this year, but it will soon. Broken Jack, ultimate lounging shorts, Mirror River wrap, and the corner to corner blanket. Goal number 3, continue with cross stitch Tuesday. So I'm going to keep working on my cross stitch on Tuesdays. Goal number 4, spin at least 6 skeins of yarn. That would be 1 skein every 2 months. And I think I can achieve that if I just get my wheel out and do it. And goal number 5 is to add 1 square to the coziest memory blanket each week. So that way it doesn't get pushed to the side and forgot about. I should have 52 new squares by the end of the year. So those are my goals. If you would like to share your goals with me, you can share them below or come to the Ravelry group and share them, or send me an email, or send me a message on Patreon or Facebook or wherever you want to share with me. I would love to hear what your goals are. Or if you don't set goals, just tell me, I don't set goals, but you know, whatever. Just let me know. Let me know what you think. Now, let's move on to how it works. I had one viewer comment that about the 2025 Twice Shirred Sheep Advent set that I got, and she was intrigued by a lot of the tools that I got. So I decided to have a segment for a little while, or maybe just every once in a while, about how it works. And some of the things you probably already know how it works, which is fine. But I'm going to start with the needle threader that I got. The one that I got has Goldilocks and the 3 bears on it. And I'm going to show you how it works. So I haven't sewn in my ends on my One Love by Joji Locatelli. So I'm going to get my needle out. Well, my tin has a bunch of stuff in it. So I'm going to get my tapestry needle out. And this is actually a really perfect example, because look at the end of this, because I always wash my shawls before I weave the ends in. So this happens a lot with the ends. So I could just snip that and thread my needle. But with the needle threader, you just take the wire end and stick it through the hole of your needle. And then you put your yarn through the wire. And you just pull it through. Look at that. Now I have my needle all threaded and ready to sew my end in on my shawl. This is actually great for my counted cross stitch, because that needle is a lot smaller and harder to get the thread to go through. It would be great for sewing needles, or I don't know if it'd actually be small enough for most sewing needles, but they do make smaller ones that are good for sewing needles. So that is how the needle threader works from Twice Shirred Sheep. I was going to have a gardening segment for you today, because one of my false Christmas cactus had a little bud on it. It has since, I was really excited to talk about it on the podcast, but it has since fallen off. So I don't know if it's too cold for it, or if that's just a sign that it's going to start blooming in January every year or what. But I don't have a gardening segment because it is still winter here in Wisconsin, and I'm just doing what I can to keep what I have alive. So that is all that I have for you today. Until next time, keep doing what you love. Bye.